Okay.
So you want to tell the story of your song, our song?
My song. Tell the story of our song, Example.
Yeah.
Our first release together. Back in May, I met a guy who had just broken up with his girlfriend. He wasn't ready for a relationship, which is absolutely fair. And then a week after that, he started dating me. And then 5 weeks after that, he broke up with me because he said he wasn't ready for a relationship, which I thought was pretty fair because he just broke up with his girlfriend because he wasn't ready for a relationship. And then a week after that, he got back together with his ex-girlfriend. And I didn't know about that until I ran into them at a bar and I saw them together, and he comes up to me and he's like, it wasn't a secret, like I was gonna tell you eventually. And so I confronted him. I was like, you're terrible, this is ridiculous, I demand an explanation. And his girlfriend got really mad at me. It was like, she ruined my night, she's a terrible person. And I just thought to myself, you're mad at the wrong person.
What was sort of the deeper meaning behind the whole story?
Yeah. So I feel like in today's world, there is an issue with commitment. Especially with modern dating, people are really afraid to sit with one person and accept them for all their flaws and all the things that are good about them. And because of that, people end up getting hurt. That's my story. And the people who get hurt in those crossfires end up mad at each other when they're victims, and they should be mad at the commitment problem.
Right.
So that's what Example was about.
Yeah.
Right? It was, what if you stopped doing that and we were friends instead?
Exactly. So, process. How did we write this? Or how did you write the lyrics?
How did we write this? Yeah, so this was a song that started with lyrics. Yeah, so after I had the idea, I sat down and just started random words, putting them down, just whatever came to my mind, not editing myself, not judging myself, right? Not being like, oh no, that's stupid. Just kept going down, writing lines and lines and lines and lines. And some of the lines that come out are good, right? As you start plucking those out and sort of start shaping a story through that, right? So a couple of the lines that I was like, all right, that one's good, was you are too good to be practiced on. Mm-hmm. That was one of the ones I was like, okay, this is a good idea that I can sort of shape things around. Yeah, and so take that process and then write a chord progression to it, right? So after that, sort of sit separately and think about, what does this idea sound like, feel like to me? That sounds so woo-woo. It's like sit separately and just like feel this idea and the sound of it. But that, manifest the
chord progression.
But that's really how it felt. That's really how it felt. And so sitting together and figuring out a chord progression that sounded good, right? And that was a lot of your part.
Yeah.
That was your part.
Yeah, I knew I wanted, so like when I first heard the lyrics and the melody behind it, I was like, well, for one, I always like extended chords, like ones that sound more jazzy and as opposed to just the typical major and minor chords that you hear. And so naturally I kind of gravitated toward that, and I don't know, I just played around a little bit, and for whatever reason, by divine nature, the chord it was probably the first chord, first or second chord progression I banged out was like the one that went with it. I started with a couple chords that I knew sounded good, and then I just added a couple more to see if it would fit, just for some variety. And I don't know.
Added that beat section,
it sounded sick.
Yeah.
I thought.
Yep. I find that once you have that chord progression that has the feeling of what you're trying to convey, if you did the lyrics first process, you can find the melody with that. Like you hear the tones, right? There's something to be said for all of our speech has pitches. We just don't think about it, right? So you are too good to be practiced on. That already has a melody. Da 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 da. right? And so finding those notes in the chord progression you've chosen is the melody's already there.
That's true. I remember that now because you hadn't fleshed out the chorus melody yet. We figured that out after the progression. Da, 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 da.
Yeah.
I remember that distinctly because you had the verse pretty much nailed down. It was the chorus that got figured out after the chord progression.
Right.
And then you sent me the rough recording.
That's right.
Which sounds nothing like
the finished product.
nothing like the finished product.
Nothing at all.
Well, you sent me, and so basically there was another keyboardist that filled in when we were practicing, and it was a very mellow, low key. I don't even know how to describe the drum pattern. It was like a very almost like halftime feel.
Yeah, just very chill, very relaxed, kind of like taking you through a day, like really melancholy. And a lot of the music that I write is like that. So that's kind of what went over, and and then it changed.
It did. Well, because like my main thing is I try to make things, I just gravitate towards things that sound more commercial and pop sounding, and I don't know why, but I just love the bam, bam, 4 on the floor, just let's fucking go.
Yes.
I mean, not that it's like well, I guess it kind of gets a little ampy in the chorus, but it's a little, but it's like but it's like a little more subdued in the verse.
It is. Yeah, it is.
But I felt like it was a good thing to try. But the chorus was a complete experiment because I made that I originally was going to make something a lot mellower and still 4 on the floor, but still very subdued, trying to think of another instance but I can't. But then I was like, you know what? I'm going to let me dial up the knob a little bit and see what would happen if this turned into like, I don't know, like a house song, like a pop house song. And I thought you were gonna hate it, to be honest.
That's insane.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Yeah, I sent this and I'm like, I'm seriously awaiting the rejection message. I was like planning out what I would see on the text screen. It was like, I think this is great, but it's not quite the direction that I was wanting to take it.
I had a great time, but I don't think there's a connection.
But I don't think the spark wasn't quite there.
No, that's insane because I loved it. Like I was like, because I love top 40.
Yeah.
I do. I like listen to it in the car, listen to it all the time. I'm like banging, and like some of my favorite music is Sia's music.
Who?
It's like Sia.
Oh, Sia. Yeah. Okay.
It's like super tight songwriting.
Yeah.
And then also the big beats, the big drops. So I was so excited to think of a song like Example that had that theme become an anthem type song that you can like beat to and dance to. So no, I loved it. And I was just like so blown away because you also turned it around in like a couple of days.
That's true. I pumped it out pretty fast.
Yeah. It's like, oh my God. Yeah, because from beginning of the idea to finished product, we took what, like
a week?
A week.
Maybe a week and a half, just with like the mixing and stuff, I think.
It's crazy.
Yeah. No, it happened pretty fast, but that's what happens. Like, the beginning's always hard, especially from like the production element. Like the beginning's always the hard. Oh, well, this it's like for any art endeavor. And then once you like get into it and you're like vibing with it, then it like gets a lot easier to flow. You get in a flow state, and that's sort of what happened with this. But the hard part was like I had to almost like force myself to get in a flow state by just like sitting down and just doing it, because I wasn't totally inspired all the time when I was doing it, because I would get into ruts and all that. I mean, just probably like you do when you write lyrics and stuff.
Oh yeah, there's times I sit down and I do that thing that I talked about where I start writing and everything that comes out is absolute garbage. I just sit there for an hour thinking about what a terrible lyricist I am.
Yeah.
It happens.
That's true.
Yeah.
But it turned out to be a bop.
It was such a bop.
It's a banger.
Yeah.
We killed it.
Oh, it rocks. Yes.
Hope you enjoy it.
Yeah.
You will enjoy it. Or else.
Or else. If you don't enjoy it, we don't want to know.
That's right.
That's right. Come a little bit closer.
Fuck.
Okay.
This is like sharp grass.
Yes, I know. That's why I was
Fuck.
like.
Jesus Christ.